Welcome to What's Up Poland, the regular online news show about Poland and Polish news. Well, if you're interested in Poland, and even if you're not, you've probably been hearing a lot about the country because, as you've probably seen on your TV and phone and tablet, Poland has had a lot of people trying to get into the country or go through the country. And migrants have suddenly appeared from nowhere on Poland's eastern border from Belarus, but originating from mostly, it seems to be Kurdi elements of Iraq, so Iraqi Kurds. And they have been trying to come, first of all, in small numbers and now in large groups across the Polish border. And if you've been following the story in the news, you'll have seen that the Polish armed forces and police have put up a long fence and has taken a series of measures to prevent these groups from coming over. So in the past few months, you've been getting these sporadic small groups coming over, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, boom. Well, today is the 17th of November, and yesterday a large group of these, quote, migrants decided to try and storm a border crossing. And you may well have seen that the Polish armed forces and police responded with water cannon, which in November on the Polish-Belarusian border must have been quite unpleasant. Well, you know what I decided to do? Having been quite interested in this story for geopolitical reasons and, for social reasons living in Poland, I thought I'd see how it was being reported around the world. And I went onto YouTube and started watching some of the big international news stories. And there they are on the front lines in the dangerous place, right on the border. I heard one reporter saying, I can hear gunshots in the background. Oh, not even ducking, actually, amazingly, even though she thought she was somewhere in a fire zone. Would have been wise to probably duck if you thought you were being shot at. And the title of the video is, reporter under fire, here's gunshots. And she's going, multiple gunshots, multiple gunshots. They weren't gunshots. As anyone who'd done their homework and maybe even just gone on Twitter and had a look would have seen, these were actually firecrackers or some form of grenade, some kind of stun grenades that were being lobbed from the migrant camp at the Polish border. So that made me interested. I started to watch a few other videos from major news outlets, international news outlets that have got their people over there. Now, I'll get on to the next one. In the next one, you see the host in the studio going, it's a concerning situation. You've got this migrant group, and then the reporter's down there and the guy's looking at these children right at the barbed wire. It looks terrible. And he's saying what a tragic situation these kids are in. No one without a heart would not be moved by seeing children at the border. Me neither. As a dad of kids, I couldn't imagine anything worse. So you got to ask yourself, as a journalist, if you're there, maybe it might be worth asking a couple more questions. Like, number one, how did these people get here? How is it that suddenly thousands of Iraqi Kurds and other migrants turned up at the Belarusian-Poland border? Now, the facts are that they came to Belarus by plane. How did they get into the country? They came into the country on tourist visas. Is that because Belarus is the place to go for tourism if you're from Iraq? Not really. Of course, Belarus is known, for example, as one of the last dictatorships of Europe, or if the dictatorship of Europe. And of course, it's a country in which last year, it's very well documented. You can go online and find it very, very easily if you were interested. After some contested elections, the people of Belarus rose up and started protesting and were viciously repressed. There's plenty of documented evidence of that happening on the streets of Belarus last year. And of course, it's carried on. So for some reason, these tourists decided to come to Poland. And then for some reason, they were bussed in large numbers to the Polish border. Almost like Belarus was planning this. I don't know. I'm not an investigative reporter. I don't hold the credentials of a major international news station. But they're not coming there for tourism, that's all. But they were allowed into the country on a tourist visa. Coincidence? You don't have to be a massive conspiracy theorist here to start to put these extremely large dots together and see that this is orchestrated. Because Belarus in November is not the place to go if you're looking for tourist hotspots. Nor, dare I say it, is the eastern border of Poland. So, of course, the journalist in this news piece reporting the facts of the case as he was, didn't mention that. Now, you also have to ask yourself, well, hang on, here they are in these horrible conditions, getting soaked even by water cannons. And, again, you would have to have a heart of stone not to be moved by seeing children at the border. So why don't they just go somewhere warm? Why don't they go to any of the buildings that are around and seek shelter? Why would you put your kid right next to the barbed wire? Well, maybe it's because behind you, not in front of you, you have a whole line of Belarusian special forces soldiers with guns. Guns, which, by the way, they've been using to ward people off and put people in different danger. There's lots of videos of this. All you have to do is look. Now, I'm guessing that the reporter in question actually knew that the soldiers were behind them because they could see them. Again, all you have to do is use your eyes and have a look. You can see the soldiers standing behind all of these groups, and they got guns in their hands. And there's plenty of evidence showing that some of the migrants, these people, have been beaten, have been shot at, shots fired in the air when they haven't done what those soldiers wanted. You also have to ask yourself, how is it I would come on a tourist visa to Belarus and I would have winter clothes, tents, and stun grenades and flashbangs to throw at people and wire cutters? God, it's almost like someone's giving it to them. I don't know. I'm not an investigative journalist, so maybe it's difficult for me to see the bigger picture. But of course, seeing the child at the border, just like everybody else, I became really emotional. As a father and as a human being, it's just horrible for those people to be in that position. So it's all Poland's fault. Well, you can talk about the legal integrity of protecting your border or not. That can be your personal opinion. You can base that on international law. You can base that on UN principles that Poland, of course, signs up to. But I think you have to ask yourself, how is it they got there in the first place? And who is it that's keeping them there? And why is it they're in a large group? Because I can tell you now, if I was the dad of those small kids, I wouldn't be there in that big group. But no chance of going through the border. There's police, there's drones, there's water cannon, there's barbed wire. If I was a dad in that situation, what I would do is take my family, travel away from that location, which is the center of the storm, and try and find the quietest, if I was going to, try and find the quietest possible way to get across the border. So why aren't they doing that? Why is it only today that the Belarusian authorities, who, by the way, sent some observers to check on the Polish crimes of defending their border, using water cannon, for example, the outrage of it all, which they used in 2020 on their own population. Why is it that only today, on the 17th of November, they've decided to allow these poor, unfortunate people who are trapped in this terrible situation to use these buildings? It's almost like they want the international media to be there to take pictures of them. So you see, I'm not an international reporter. I don't have the credentials. I haven't been to the media school. But I think that if you start to put those dots together and you ask yourself the right questions, you can clearly see that the claim here that what's happening is not just what you might describe as a typical migrant crisis of the type that you can see in times of warfare. And we know all too well, sadly, for example, on the Turkish-Syrian border, Iraq as well, but is a form of hybrid warfare in which the media and public opinion and social media and images plays a crucial part. What is the truth? Well, look, I haven't been to the border. I'm not an investigative journalist. But I think it's enough to look at the armed men who are standing behind these people and not letting them go anywhere with the guns drawn that they have used. And you might start wondering, are these people trying to get into a country? Or are they scared of the people standing behind their backs with guns drawn? I hope this situation is resolved peacefully. And I invite you all to look at some of that international reporting and think to yourself, what kind of game is being played here? Because in the information game, the picture of a dirty child, that's the money shot. Okay, that's the shot that gets the views. If they say gunfire, I'm being shot at, that's the exciting stuff. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. So, of course, what you need to do is take your opinions from lots of different places. Don't count on one particular news organization. Be careful with anything you see on social media because what's reported as facts isn't always. And maybe if you see those gigantic dots, here's one piece of advice for a reporter. Maybe try looking a little bit further over the hill where you see the guys with the guns. Put them together and you might see the real picture. So let's follow this developing story. Let's keep you updated. You can find out more about Poland on What's Up Poland. I'll see you again for another episode.